listening to the Booked on Planning podcast, a project of the Nebraska chapter of the American Planning Association. In each episode, we dive into how cities function by talking with authors on housing, transportation, and everything in between. Join us as we get booked on planning. Welcome, bookworms, to a new mini-series of the Booked on Planning podcast. Jennifer and I are teaming up with the University of Nebraska College of Architecture, and more specifically, their Community and Regional Planning program, to produce a mini-series covering the Hyde Lecture series.
This idea came up last year with one of our CRPL program faculty members, Hyde Lopez, as an opportunity for students to hone in on their interviewing skills, learn from nationally recognized design professionals, and share their knowledge with our audience.
The Hyde Lecture series, put on by the college, takes place in the spring and fall. We're excited to kick off this mini-series with the fall 2025 batch of speakers.
In today's short episode, we're kicking off this new mini-series by talking with Jaime on what the Hyde Lecture series is and what we can expect from the sessions this fall.
Well, Jaime, welcome to the Booked on Planning podcast. To start off, what is the Hyde Lecture series, which is spelled Hyde, and when did it get started?
So the Hyde Lecture Series is an opportunity for the College of Architecture to bring in different professionals from the academic world, but also the practitioners' world in landscape architecture, interior design, and of course, urban planning. And as far as I know, the Hyde Chair of Excellence was established in 1989 as a public lecture series. Documented events have it going back to as early as 2008. It's hosted annually by the College of Architecture at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and it focuses on, again, bringing thought leaders across different design disciplines to share insight and provoke dialogue.
And Jaime, Stephanie and I have worked very closely with you over the last few years, so we know you quite well. But for our listeners, who are you and how did you get involved with the Hyde Lecture series?
Yes. So I'm Jaime Lopez, assistant professor in the Department of Community and Regional Planning. And upon starting my first year here a couple of years ago now, I joined the Hyde Lecture Planning Committee that is known on campus as the College Engagement and Enrichment Committee, also known as the CEEC. And I was drawn to the series because of its public-facing mission, interdisciplinary scope, and potential for community engagement scholarship. I love being part of it because it also contributes to just broadening how planning and design is represented in the lineup of different speakers and different student interests. And so my experience helping to organize this lecture series goes back 2 years now.
What are some of the goals of the Hyde Lecture series? You kind of touched on this, so the reasons why you were drawn to this program.
Yeah, so it's a long-standing endowed public lecture program that offers a platform for compelling speakers in all of the different design disciplines that I mentioned earlier. What it aims to do is to foster ongoing dialogue about urgent, cross-cutting themes in design and planning education, and really to support the intellectual and professional development of students, faculty, and the broader community. One of the things that I've seen is that it really does contribute to having an intellectual environment on campus and in our community as well.
The Hyde Lecture series has been with the university for quite a while now, as you've mentioned, so I'm sure that this has changed over the years, but currently, how are you all managing the Hyde Lecture series?
So it's curated and managed by, again, the committee that I'm part of with other faculty from the other disciplines within the College of Architecture. And it's managed by that committee, which again is the College Engagement and Enrichment Committee. So the CEEC selects speakers, they set themes year to year, and we coordinate logistics and support student integration into these lectures. This year marks a return to the unthemed format, so we don't have an explicit theme, and so we're allowing space for a more flexible and wide-ranging set of perspectives to be shared.
And on that note, with types of perspectives to be shared, what types of speakers have you had in the past?
The range is pretty broad. The lineup spans from leading academics, practicing professionals, activists, public sector leaders. In the past, some of the themes have included climate, equity, material innovation, housing, and this year's Unthemed series allows for just a more spontaneous, topical set of lectures that will contribute to each of the disciplines.
Just to follow up with that, are there any speakers in the couple of years that you've been involved that you thought were really meaningful?
Yes, I last year was able to invite someone who overlapped during my time at Berkeley as a master's student in urban planning, Dave Amos, who is now a professor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in California. I was able to invite him, and fortunately it worked out with his schedule, and he was able to talk about his YouTube channel, which is rather successful, several 100,000 subscribers at this point. He's been doing this since 2016, and the YouTube channel, for those of you who might be interested, is called City Beautiful, and I think he's doing tremendous work in visually demonstrating so many different urban planning topics and teaching students, and really to anyone who wants to dive deeper into the world of urban planning. There was another speaker who we had who was an alumni from here, and I forget his last name, first name Gordon, but he was an architecture student at the time that he was here years ago and has had an interesting career that has now seen him go into the film industry. So he's worked on productions for the Lord of the Rings series and several other pretty high production value projects that, in my experience, resulted in the most highly attended of these Hyde Lectures. I think anytime that you add sort of popular culture into these kind of topics, it's very attractive to a lot of students. But I generally have had just a great time learning from all of the different speakers. I think it's a real asset to the intellectual community here.
One of the things that I think is the most exciting about this mini-series is that we are actually inviting students of the Community and Regional Planning Program to be our co-producers, shall we say. Can you talk about the students' reaction to the podcast idea and how it's been going so far?
I want to put in a quick plug for going forward. This is just the beginning. We presented the idea about a year ago. I brought it up at one of our committee meetings and wanted to see if there was a way for us to maximize our interaction with these lecturers during the 1 or 2 day visits that they were taking time out of their schedule from to be with us, and to integrate an interview in a podcast form and to have students be the ones directly interviewing each of the lecturers. So as sort of a pilot, we were able to do that with one speaker so far. And so for those of you that are graduate students in architecture, landscape architecture, or interior design, if you're interested in recording a short interview with one of this year's Hyde Lecture speakers in your field, please reach out directly to me. I think it's a great way to engage more deeply with the ideas that these professionals bring to our campus, and also a chance to get some exposure as a graduate student who is preparing to enter their respective fields. So it's very much in the early stages, and I've also been very fortunate to, in my time here in Lincoln, to be in touch with both Jennifer and Stephanie, who have done an amazing job really expanding the reach of the Booked on Planning podcast. And for me, it was a no-brainer to see that there could be integration between their efforts and what we were doing as a way to reach wider audiences with all of these different lectures that we have.
We really appreciate that, but I'm super jealous of the opportunities that the students have. I would have loved to do a podcast when we were in the program. Stephanie and I were in the program back to back. I don't know that we've ever shared that with our listeners. She graduated before me, though.
Yep.
But I'm still older than her, so it's fine.
Can you give us a preview of some of the speakers that the committee is looking at to bring in this fall and how many you're planning for?
Yes. So I don't know the total number that we're planning for yet. We have some that have committed officially to visiting us. We have 3 in the fall and 1 in the spring so far. So I could share those names and what their specialty expertise is. So we have Deborah Schneiderman from the Pratt Institute. She'll be speaking to students about interior design on September 17th. We have Aaron Kayer from Cal Poly Pomona, who teaches architecture. He will be with us on October 1st. And the planner that I was able to engage with and fortunately was able to secure her availability to be with us is Dr. Carissa Slaughterback from the University of Pittsburgh, who is an urban planning scholar. She'll be with us on November 5th. And so far for the spring, we have Matthew Macchietto, who teaches landscape architecture and will be with us on February 18th. So more of the spring dates are tentative for now, but we are currently working even during the summer to try to secure all of their arrangements to make sure that they are here in the spring as well.
It's exciting to hear Chris is coming here because we overlapped a little bit when I was up in the Twin Cities working for a few years. She was very engaged with the chapter and did amazing work, and we were sad to see her go.
That's really great to hear. I definitely had her at the top of my list when I was given the responsibility to look for an urban planning scholar to bring. And I had a lot of flexibility because there was no specific theme that I had to connect to.
Who's the one person that you just would absolutely dream of having come speak here? Maybe we've got people in the audience that can help us get a contact.
You know, I don't know if I have one person in mind, but the part of urban planning that I've been focused on has been more so directly related to either community engagement, which is part of the reason why I had Dr. Slaughterback at the top of my list, but also environmental issues. So there is a range of different authors whose books I've read that, have been doing great work, especially in recent years. So you have people like Jason Corburn, Michael Mendez. You have David Pello is another person who wrote a wonderful book called Critical Environmental Justice.
Trying to select one person, that's a hard question.
Super hard question.
Yes.
If people were potentially interested in participating as speakers for the Hyde Lecture series, who should they contact? Would that be you, or is there an email that they can access?
No one has ever asked me that question before, and we are a committee of a few different faculty members, so I wouldn't want to say that I would be the direct contact for that, but I could certainly say that just reaching out to the College of Architecture would be an easy way to then get directed to the appropriate person.
We can link that in the show notes, too.
Sure.
So you mentioned that in the past, the Hyde Lecture series have been themed each year based on topics like housing, and this year's unthemed. Are you finding it a lot easier to be able to slot in speakers without being confined to a theme, or is the theme kind of helpful to really narrow in the focus?
That's a great question. In theory, I would assume that it's easier. I definitely felt that it was easier when coming up with a list of potential lecturers. We were so busy, I feel, these past couple of months as we were closing out this past semester and getting some of these arrangements started that I don't know if I have heard from the other members of our committee whether they were necessarily having an easier time, but I do believe that theoretically they must have, and I hope that that was the case.
Well, Jaime, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast to launch this Hyde Lecture mini-series. We're excited to see where this goes.
Pleasure to be with you. I'm a big fan of Booked on Planning. I share it with my students. I've shared it all across the country with friends who are either in the field of urban planning or are interested in it. So it is definitely an honor to be here with you both today.
We really appreciate the support that you've given the show. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Jaime Lopez and this introduction to our upcoming mini-series on the University of Nebraska College of Architecture's Hyde Lecture series. You can find the lineup of upcoming speakers on the college's website or click the link below in the show notes. Remember to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and please rate, review, and share the show. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on Booked on Planning.